And Dave Wilson of the Ring of Hire show. Listen, stop what you're doing. Drop the microphone. I got the original Gabe Leal. How are you doing, Gabe?
I'm doing wonderful, David. Thank you so far. Thank you so
Wow.
much for having me here. First of all, this is awesome.
This is Austin, all the way in Dallas, Texas. Dallas, Texas. And I'm in PA. But we're gonna have a great show here, and we'll be right back after this video. I love those videos.
Wow. Wait. Before we go any further, all right.
Right.
I love the intro.
Right.
I'm a sucker for a show
Right.
where somebody puts in a nice intro and gets
Yep.
everything started, because I think it sets the show and,
Oh,
the,
yeah.
and the tempo off on the right foot, man.
Oh,
I
I
love that.
You know where I get it from? That for $17 in 2019, I met on that Fever app or whatever it is, Fever, whatever, right?
Yeah, Fiverr. Yeah,
Fiverr. Whatever. See, he's dark 2019. We can create now in 2 years. We know him. I can send 10 images and my vision, and he can put those music, and we can put that together within about 1 hour.
Wow.
Yeah, $17.
Hey, folks, that is, first of all, when I tell people you want to get started and you want to put something out there and you're like, I don't know if I have the creativity to do it, whatever. Hey, just like what David always talks about, if you can outsource something, right? If you and you have the ability to, and you still get the results that you want accomplished, and not even expensive price. I've heard other places where it's insane. So that's awesome.
I give him a $5 tip too. He gets a $5 tip. You know, hey Steve, I was just talking about you. Gabe, he's been looking forward to speaking with you for a while. He has LinkedIn Live. He has it. He hasn't used it yet, but I keep saying late night with Stephen Farrell. I'm telling you.
That's right, man. Hey, Stephen, all I can tell you is, look, reach out to me. You can direct message me. That is my mission, is getting people to take those first steps and getting them to where they want to go, and help them kind of craft their vision, create their voice, and get them going on video. So yes, anytime, reach out to me. I help plenty of people all the time. That is my mission. That is my purpose here.
No, and I'm excited for him because he's taken, you know how long it takes sometimes, and you got to build up those videos. You got to show great content, you know. And I have to say something real quick though. See, when you go on your show and your feed, you can't breathe. You know what? You can't even breathe on yours. Look, I got one guy, Steve. Now, oh, here we go. Okay, here comes Steve again. See, I got two, but he's kind of like, he wants to come on the show. But my point is there, Gabe, you know, before we get going, you know, so many times you're asking people, tell us about yourself. So just tell us about yourself,
cool.
And family. And
so me, I've always been someone who's been very closely connected to family. I grew up in a big family of 5 brothers, 2 sisters. I have my own family. I have 4 kids, 4 dogs. I enjoy having all that around, because I guess that's the environment that I kind of enjoy the most, is having people around. And I think that's where I get this and carry this in what I do with my show, that I enjoy having different individuals around, different people. It's like having, for me, a bookshelf. Each person I say each person is like a book. You know, you open the pages, it's going to be different story, different chapters, different journeys. So if you're very interested in reading a book, you take it out, you get into it, you learn about it, and you thoroughly enjoy it. So that's what I do with people. I see it the same way, and I've always been that sort of individual who not only does enjoy like learning about people
Right.
through stories and conversations and just being an active listener, but also pretty much participating in
Right.
their lives as well. That's a big
Yep.
thing for me. Is like that's how kind of like what happened, how I met you. It's just, I mean,
Sure.
you've been watching me, but I came and participated on your shows,
Yep.
put in the comments, actively being a part of what you're creating, and for me, that's how I kind of approach making sure that I build really
Right.
good relationships is just being there, and that's kind of the fabric of who I am as an individual, and
And
that's
that works too, because you said the right words there, and it comes down to connections. And like Steve, you've done your show, everybody that's been on your show, and I've been on yours. I've seen you, and we kind of like grew it since 2019. Now,
yes.
now we look back and we look at it now and say, wow, a journey, and we're going to deep dive into that. But you really get to know your audience on here, like good friends. Like I've seen, like, even though I never met you, I feel like I know you. You know what I mean? Because it's with everything we've done. Like, look, Russ. Now, Russ messaged me. He says he connected with me. He says because Gabe said so.
Russ is my mentor. That's
Yeah.
he's a great guy, and but that comes back to it. This is what
Yep.
it all comes back, right? Is
Yep.
that how you connect with people, how you establish relationships.
Yep.
It's the same. So just to equate it to what you do, you take the same approach when building relationships with candidates, right? You
Yep.
you have to lay a foundation, right? Even with somebody that you might not get, if you're trying to get them down the road, if you
Right.
plant that seed there and say, hey, 6 months down the road, a year down the road, right?
Oh,
Hey,
yeah.
listen, are you still looking to kind of get here? This is things that I have to offer, right? And they're looking for an individual like you, meet your qualification.
Yep.
You do the same thing. You build relationships. That's how you're going to make,
And we talked about right before this. We talked about how within the last 2 years, how much you've learned from your audience, how much you've learned for Russ, how much you've learned, like I've learned from Steve. I could ask Steve any kind of question. I could reach out to him, call him, we talk, and they can walk you through. And I'm sure you have a lot of that.
Oh yeah, there's tons of, and that's the thing that I tell a lot of people when they first kind of either reach out to me or connect with me, and I let them know, look, I'm interested in hearing, number one, about your journey, what drives you, what you're passionate about, right? And what your sense of fulfillment is. Those are kind of the three things I want to touch on every time I meet with
That's
somebody,
awesome.
because that's going to tell me the fabric, the character, the integrity this person has. And if their intentions are just either I'm there to, sell you, or I'm here to actually learn and connect. And if they're open to doing that, and open the floodgates, let's talk.
I'm going to jump to one question. I shouldn't all the way, but I am, because you just hit that point. Then we'll come back to my regular question.
Okay.
When you started the live streaming, you're putting it out there. The reason that what I liked about what you said on one of your posts when you started doing the streaming is that you were excited. You said about new creators. You said about the community. You started a movement. You found support, most important, advice, guidance. And not once, Gabe, did you say anything. You didn't say it like you said it as a really private, like personal, like a way that it didn't come back about you.
No.
It was about them. Everything that you said in there, I kept rereading. I was like, he never said something. It wasn't me.
No.
It was everything about us and putting us on your show. But what was that excitement about?
So here's the whole thing behind this, right? So in an attempt to kind of change the trajectory of my life back in 2019, I started that year off, and I wanted to learn how to challenge myself and to do different things, because I wasn't in the best place in my life at that point. And I really needed something to kind of spearhead that change to say, I got to get out of whatever this is. So just like a lot of people who come here to LinkedIn, um, they come here searching, whether it's searching for a job, searching for whatever. Same thing here. I found something different.
Right.
I found the spark that I actually needed
That's
to
fantastic.
kind of get me motivated to moving. So once I started doing that, I started putting myself on camera, filming
Mhm.
myself, which I wasn't the most. I wasn't the most camera ready person. I was always camera shy. I wasn't always
Right.
front center. I wasn't always jumping when there was a video. I always used to hide. I always had things that I didn't want to be there.
Right.
Right. So I changed the way that I looked at things. I changed my mindset about how I could do this, and um, I ran with it. And the
Yep.
reason that I started doing my shows, and the reason why I started doing them every day was to hold myself accountable. I knew,
I like that.
um, I knew that if I did it like, well, I'm just going to do it once a week. That the moment that something came up and kind of threw me off the routine, that I don't know if I would have committed. That would have been me in the past,
Yep. I
and
agree.
it would have went to the wayside. So by doing it every day, I made a commitment to saying, okay, I have to show up here. Um, and along the way, I learned a lot of things about myself, right?
Right.
And that's where I find those words, joy, right? You have to do something, and if you do it with joy,
Right.
right, it makes everything so much easier in your life.
Yep.
It's no longer a struggle
Yep.
because you're actually getting to do what you love. So that kind of started me down this path of saying, you know what, this is different. This feels like me.
That's awesome.
And I've been searching for this for a long time. This is what I
Right.
found. This is me,
Right.
and I found it. And I knew at that point that I was going to have to just say, you know what, this is the journey right now. This is it. This
Yep.
is the path. So just run with it. And at that point, I told myself, you know what, I can learn it as I go along, and,
Wing it. We're saying wing it. Wing it. Wing it.
wing it.
Funny.
And it kind of goes
Yeah.
to a little bit different to what we're going to talk about, but that's how I got it started down that journey, right down that path. And then I all I want to do is just give people the opportunity to feel the same thing I did.
Yep. Yep.
That's it.
I
That's all I
told
really
Steve
want to do.
right before the show, we were talking, and he said about, hey, he couldn't wait for the show tonight. And we were saying the same thing about commitment. And there are some times we talked about that I didn't want to do the show. It's been 2 years. I never go 2, 3 days without one. And let me tell you, there are times on a Sunday, on a Saturday, whenever I did it, but I'd be like, you had to stay consistent, because if you didn't, and I listened to everybody else, when to post, when to do this. We've talked about that already, how you said that's a journey and what you learn.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I tell you, I like staying consistent. I do like taking a little break.
Well,
Maybe,
everybody needs it.
yeah,
Everybody needs that.
but I
You
like
know.
you said that, and that's what me and Steve were talking about. I'm going to take you backwards now. When did you start out? And you said 2019. You started doing your shows, right?
Yeah. So I started. Well, I started actually doing recorded video first
Yep.
in November. So it's always been 2 years. So November 2019, I started doing my first ones, and then I started streaming a month later, um, in December. Right, I went and did a first practice one, and then I did another one a few days later, and then that's when I decided. I said, you know what, I'm just gonna go for it and start doing it every day. So in January is when I actually started going every single day.
Yeah, you were all over the place.
So it was every day, and I kind of, like I said, Russ was my mentor, because Russ, for those who don't know Russ Johns, he's been doing it longer than I have. So he's done, at one point he had done 500 consecutive episodes.
Whoa.
So he did it for Monday through Friday. Monday through Friday, he would do it every day, showing up there 7 a.m. So we kind of became bookends, and we became close friends because of it. He was doing 7 a.m. in the morning. I was doing 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. And, you know, a lot of the times he would see guests that I had on and he would reach out to them. I see guests that he would have on. I'd reach out to them, bring them on my shows. And we kind of, a lot of started cross-pollinating a lot of our community. And I think those were very fond memories, man, of
Wow.
going back there and doing it. Now, I don't suggest everybody do that because it can be very taxing. And even
we're going to be talking about that because you said, and nobody knows. I look back and I look at yourself and myself. We just met. I look at the backgrounds. I look the way you're talking, the way I'm talking compared to oh my God. I look back. I try. Do you watch your videos? Because I don't. I have to stop.
Okay. So when it comes to that, only recently have I come back and watched a few of the episodes that I've done just lately. Right. But before then, out of the 300 episodes that I did, I had only watched 5 from beginning to end because there is something about seeing yourself, hearing yourself.
Thank you.
And going, do I look like that? And do I sound like that? And it takes a little bit of having to kind of reprogram. Okay, look at it. I really had to sit down and go, you got to look at it from a constructive criticism place. So look at yourself. Because if you want to sort of elevate and get better, look at the things that you think you probably improve on. So it only recently have I gone to start doing it, but like you, I could. It's cringeworthy watching yourself sometimes because your mind instantly goes back to a moment when you were doing that live, right? And you go, oh God, I can't remember doing that. What was I thinking?
Gabe, you know what my son does? He's 12 years old and we're driving in the car. He'll put on the YouTube and it'll be like, hey, my name is Dave Wilson. And I'll be like, I get so mad. I say, Cash, turn that off. And he just laughs every time in the car. And he puts it on because he knows I don't like hearing my own voice. And he's like, Dave Wilson of Results Staff. And I'm like, oh my God. But the kids pick up on that because he knows it irritates me.
It does.
But I think that's part of the learning. I wanted to ask you.
Well, can I tell you this before we go forward? Forward, think about that memory though, because at some point I think you're gonna look back on it fondly.
Yeah.
And I thought about it too because I think about what my kids are gonna see when they watch and they go back and I'm no longer on this planet, right? Yep. I'm there cataloged and they can think back to those moments of, hey, I remember when Dad was doing his YouTube show and talking and. Oh my God. It's going to do the same thing you just did. He's going to make them laugh. It's going to bring back spark a very nice memory. So that's part of the legacy behind it all.
That's funny the way you say that. I love it.
So it's good.
It's awesome. All right. I know Steve, I'm going to get in here. What Steve wants to know is explain, because I like it. I like this. I wrote it down. Look at this. The LinkedIn live stream expert, content creator, the stream tornado, LinkedIn live streams curator. I'm like, what the hell is a curator? Like a coffee pot or a little Keurig? But he wants to learn about what that and what you actually do. What is it?
Okay, so a curator, right? You think of, so I say it like this. So you ever been to an art museum?
Yeah.
Okay, do you know what the person who runs what an art gallery is? They're called a curator, right? They show people.
Okay.
They show people the art. They don't even have to be artists, right? They can just be there to kind of explain what the art is, why it's vibrant, why it's okay. So that's what I do with live stream creation. I say what you have here in front of you is your palette. Each one of us is an artist. And for each individual that goes on there and creates and shares their creativity, I say to me, that's the same thing as seeing a work of art. And if people come to me and want to know, I say, look, I'm a curator. I can show you what your art can look like, what you can do to help develop your own style as an artist or quote unquote, a creator. Sure. So I look at it from that sort of point because I think everybody has that. If you're here doing this, first of all, you got to have some spark of creativity inside of you. This is not, you don't just sit down and go, okay, I'm just going to.
No. I remember your first. You remember your first time? I was like LinkedIn Live. I'm like, all right, I got to push the button. It's not Facebook. All right, here we go. I had nothing on the walls. I had a globe, and I look back and I'm like, I hit it, and I'm like, hi. I'm like, oh my god, this is crazy. This is crazy. It was
so all of it though, the flag
yeah.
behind you, all of that, that's part of
Yeah.
that's part of the building of what you
Yeah.
are representing as your art, as a creator.
Yep.
So this is what I tell people. And when people want to understand and know what that is, that's kind of what I explain to them. And then they get the idea. They get the idea. They're like, oh, okay, cool. Right. And as a content creator, I help people. I craft content, help and design for individuals who want to learn how to do this. So I kind of write tips. I give them ideas. I share things like, hey, look, if you're looking to get into live streaming, here are a few things that you should probably know, right? Just give them advice, a little bit to get them intrigued, right? That's the whole point for me, is to elevate a lot of the content that's being created here on LinkedIn.
Oh, yeah.
I want to see a lot of creators who can actually get their message across and get it to where it's very crisp, very concise, very.
Before I forget this question, Gabe, I wanted to ask
Yeah, go ahead.
As you've evolved, when you talk about content, have you found it easier now to provide information, content for someone versus yourself? Because nobody understands. Sometimes when you talk about creating content, and I do my own show, and I don't always have somebody on with me, co-host. So you have to develop something. What do you talk about for 45 minutes every night? And it gets harder. And I tell the truth. Well, it gets tough. Besides going over the same thing. But do you find it, through all your experience now, easier helping people than you do now trying to create your own? Do you know what I mean?
Yes. Right. Because it's easy. It's easier said than done. Right. Yeah. So you can actually take someone's ideas, right? You can listen to them. Like, if you told me what your ideas was, I can help you mind map out how you want to create your message, right? So, hey, let's get 45 minutes. Let's create this. Look, hit this point, touch here, elaborate on this because you got a lot of meat here, and then kind of finish up with this because it'll wrap up what you're talking about very neatly, right?
Right.
So you can do that with anybody's content. Now, doing your own, then you go, all right, what am I going to... how do I kind of do it? So I'm like you.
Yeah.
I've done both interview shows, and I've done monologues for where I've actually talked for 2 hours, and crafting. And what I do is I map out a little bit of what I do generally. So I do kind of have a little bit of structure when I do my conversations where I'm talking about myself. So my subject matter, but sometimes, depending on what's going on with the audience, sometimes they start asking questions. Well, if it's something that's very interesting, I will tangent off and go, okay, let's kind of touch that. Then let's go a little bit further with that. I think that's it's interesting, topic of discussion. So if I see that going on, then I'll head down that way. If it's something that I say, well, let's get back on topic, right? Yeah. Then I'll go ahead and keep continuing down what I kind of outlined, what my conversation is going to be. So there are people that do. I've done both. I've done structured and free flow.
Right.
Because sometimes there are interviews where people like, you know what, I don't do particularly well with questions. So I don't, just ask me whatever comes to my mind, and I think I can answer them as we go along. Okay, cool. You want to go with that? I can develop questions as I go along. Fine. Right. I listen to what you're saying. I'll ask like one or two general questions, actively listen to what they say, and then kind of say, you know what, that's a good touching point. I need to dig on that. And then just keep them going and talking about what they, whatever the subject matter is or whatever the individuals there to talk about. So I've done both. And then there's like, I like to have a merger of both sometimes.
Yes.
So at least I have a general direction of, okay, 5 questions. Because I used to email all my guests 10 questions that I would, 5 of them that I would do like general questions,
Right.
and then 5 that I kind of tailored. Yeah, we did. We
Steve wants
did.
to do a 2-hour one. Me and him were going to do a 2-hour one.
So I've tailored it where there's questions pertaining to them. So that's where a lot of the pre-production work goes into what you do as far as making a presentation. So I tell people, like, imagine if you're standing in front of your board of directors, or you're sitting there telling your sales and your marketing team, and you have to make your presentation. You want to be able to, get your point across and touch on the things you need to touch that they'll understand. So, Jillian, thank you.
There she is.
She's amazing. If you don't know who Jillian Whitney is, get her on your map.
Definitely.
She's another one of these individuals who, much like myself, craft, tailor, and educate content creators here on LinkedIn. So she does a marvelous job.
Awesome.
I mean, she's even had me. Believe me, I've been on here enough. I love to search. She's even had me thinking at times about stuff. So that tells you kind of like why I enjoy and respect what she does wholeheartedly. Awesome. So, but going back to what I was just talking about, right? You still have to have some sort of way that you're going to connect with not only your guest, right? You have to keep them engaged, and you have to actively listen. But then also you have to remember that you're speaking to an audience. So I like for things to be, at least have some kind of value, being informative, sharing something that somebody either is going to listen to, learn from, resonate. It's got to be something that comes across there. So that's always how I always approach it.
You make my mind start thinking. I'm going to ask you, this wasn't even on here though. I want to ask you, and a lot of people try. I always got tired of, well, I get 10,000 views. Well, I have 500 views. Well, I only had 40. Do you feel the views are more important than what you're putting out there? Because for me, I've learned, let's face it. Oh, you want to get all those connections. You want to get 5, 10, 15,000, but it doesn't really all come down to that. I like to get to know, look, you can tell me and Steve talk. If you really build those connections, you can really learn a lot. But what do you recommend for people?
Here's how I see it. Right. And this is how I approach anybody who wants to go out there and create content. So if you're pushing for views, that's great, right? You can get a lot of audience, you can get a lot of eyes, you can gain some influence.
Right.
But when I say you're creating a piece of content, if it can outlast you,
right,
that's when I think you have really great content. People still watch videos of Zig Ziglar, Wayne Dyer, people that are actually no longer here on this earth, yet what they talk about and what they share still resonates, still is impactful, and still changes people's lives.
That's awesome.
That's how you have to approach making your content.
Right.
If it can outlast that, because again, you can get the numbers. The numbers are great. They can prove it. But is it going to stick? Is it going to resonate?
Thank you.
And I tell people, here's the thing. I tell people with sports, you can go back and watch the Super Bowl. Do you remember how many people watched? No, you remember the results that happened from what's going on, the memorable moments. Those are the things that stick in your mind and will stay there. So that's the same way that I say approach creating your content. It's going to be different than everybody else, as I said, but I'm not conventional.
No, and that makes total sense. We said, but I like how you said about the football. How many people are there? You don't really remember it. That's a pretty. I like that. I like.
You don't remember that. You can't remember. If somebody can rattle off the attendance of Super Bowl 50, then you're going to impress. Okay, cool. Then I know that you spent the time learning that, but I'm pretty sure you can tell me, the score, who played, or what happened in that game, and how it's those moments like that carry on with you. So content and everything like that. So people still quote, like I said, people still go back and quote guys like Aristotle and all these things that again, these guys are gone centuries.
Right.
and yet what they say and what they've written and what they've created remains relevant,
Yep.
right? We just kind of sometimes repackage it, repurpose it, and re-put it out there. But it's what again, the nature of their content that what we call content creation now is it extends past the life of what their time here on this plane was, and that's what I simply say. For me, that's just the same thing. My videos, my content will live on beyond me, and that's part of the legacy of how I approach creation. And it's the good times, the fun stuff, the serious stuff, all the stuff that goes along with it. That's all of it. That's part of the whole journey. You cannot forget that. So,
and that's what I like to do about people when they're looking for work. When we're looking for work, the ring of fire, when I called it, I like just having people on to interview them, and let's one hiring manager see them. I don't get anything. I get out of it just helping somebody. If I see on LinkedIn somebody that really needs help, I message them, say, hey, would you like to be on the show? Free. Listen, one person sees you. That's it.
That's it. Right.
And you leave that impression, I don't realize, I'm sure you've had it. People reach out and say they watch your show and you don't even know.
Yeah. All the time. Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
you don't know.
And it still sticks with me. I get people kind of I got known for a little bit, but this is what I always used to ask. I always used to finish every single interview that I did with the question everybody calls it now, right? Because it was always the same question. I said, and have it down, memorized, and it went like this. So to practice, it would be like, so when the book is said and done on David Wilson, what kind of legacy do you want to leave behind, and what do you want to be remembered for? And those are I would ask that because it's interesting to hear people's answers. And what's going to be fun for me is somewhere down the road, maybe in a year or 2 years, I'm going to reach back to some of these guests and ask them on to again and figure out, I asked you this question 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
Right.
Is your answer still the same? And I promise you a lot of the times it's not going to, because the trajectory of their lives have changed, everything. But it's the answer. I tell them there's no right or wrong answer. It's just a pinpoint of where you are now along your journey.
Well, you had me thinking about it, and I think you do. And you had me, when you said that, I'm like, you think while you're saying that, like, what impression? Like me, to where if you said that, I look at leadership. My whole family, Army, Navy, Air Force, all of us. My father dropped us off, go sign up. My legacy is I love the military. This represents to me leadership, discipline. And that's what I want to be known for telling the truth. We've talked about it numerous times. When you're on somebody's show or where you've had guests on there, do you trust them?
Yeah.
Do you know them, what they're about? Would you have a guest on? And I guarantee that you would not have a guest on your show that you wouldn't have believed in. You're not just going to put somebody on there because of this. I think you can probably agree with me on that you really do your research, because you used to come on my show all the time and you said you had an interest on recruiting. You always would say, I have an interest. And that's what I remember about you.
Yes.
You had an interest in that. And that goes back to tell me about how you are. That question creates creativity of what you're thinking. What do I want to be left for? I like it. Right. I got to ask this before Steve gets on me.
Okay.
What is the streaming, and what are you doing now? How do you put all this together every night with shows, and what does it do? And we talked about it slightly, but just tell me about it.
So my thing was, I wanted to figure out a way to give back. So many people had supported me on my journey, right? And there were times where I struggled and I needed things, but there were people inside of the community that had built relationships where they were always there to help, kind of provide a shoulder, get me along where I needed to be. So my idea was to go, how can I kind of help do that for other people? How can I kind of support that? And because I watched tons of live stream, I got the idea from another live streamer.
Right.
Watching his show. And I'm going to give him a shout out because I always will. I'm going to give it back to him. His name's Juma Bannister, and he does a great show. Very clean, very crisp, but he would always find content on LinkedIn, and he would share it on his show and talk about this person's content, like, look at what they're doing. This is awesome. I love how they're talking about it, right? And just kind of just highlighting them. And
Right.
the moment that I thought about it, I said, that's what I got to do. I got to take this community and I got to start highlighting all the awesome people that I know, number one, and all the people that I don't know yet that are out there. So I started putting this together, and I remember the first one I did was like 5 shows. It was
I
only 5
remember.
shows, and it was very small, but it started to gain traction. And what happened was, as I started to reach out to some of these other people that now started showing up in my feed, because
Right.
LinkedIn will do that. If you start watching live streams, the algorithm works for you. That's how you use it in your favor. It
Yep.
started populating me with all these other people that I had not known yet. There were like second or third connections, people that I didn't know. And then all the other creators said, you need to check out this person. So it just kind of all came together. And LinkedIn, well, I got to tell you, LinkedIn did a great job of what they did with the events thing. So they created where you can make your event now. Without it, I couldn't do this, because what that does now is it lets me go back and find these streams. I can actually click the attend button on somebody's event, and then boom, I can populate it into my calendar, and my calendar then does all the work. It builds it, right?
I knew it. I knew it. I knew it somehow. I was thinking, how I asked Steve. I always go back. We don't have our little audience here. How the hell does he have the time? How would you go and sit there? Let's see. Dave's on at 9 p.m. This person's on this. I'm like, how the hell does he do that?
So here's the thing I tell everybody: find the processes that make everything easy for you.
Right.
Right. You find if you can create a process that's going to simplify your life,
Right.
you better make sure that you craft it, you get it down to an art, and then you learn how what that does is it makes everything in your life so much easier.
Yep.
I don't like I said, my calendar now, I mean, now it's getting pretty bigger where now it's getting bigger where now it's like, I'm averaging about 22 to 25 shows a day.
That's same.
Of creators who are out there doing this thing, but because I'm able to do that with my calendar, and it kind of helps me do that. Not only now am I able to kind of go back and see everybody's shows, but now I'm starting to be able to build information and templates to kind of say, for individuals that go, now I know this person goes every Monday, so I can kind of already have it planned out. Hey, this person is always consistent.
So,
or then
what does it do for you then, Gabe? As a streamer, what's the end? Like, I'm still like, I always keep going, Steve, you're on the side here, but you're my only friend here, like, colleague. But what is it? How does it? I know you're helping people. You're putting that out there. It's showing, like, say our show right now, we created an event. I've seen it on your page. Does this all go toward you? Like, you find people, you put it on there, and it shows from your page how you're doing it? Or
so what I do is essentially, like, for a lot of people, most of them have a show and they have guests on, right?
Right.
So this is how the network has grown and grown even bigger. So I would eventually just tag the host, right?
Right.
And then I started tagging their guest. And then the guests come on there and go, holy crap, what is this? This is awesome. A lot of them equate it to like the old school TV guides that you used to get, that you could go back. Right? Flip book, you could go back there. There's something tangible.
The little cartoons.
Exactly, right? There's a lot of things you could, again, content was built around a schedule. Yep. That's all it was. So taking the same sort of concept, I started doing this every day, putting this out there, putting tools and stuff into a lot of since I wasn't doing an everyday show anymore, I still had the skills that I learned from doing that and kind of transferred them in. So using the time management skills, finding shortcuts and hacks that kind of helped me put this together, use the same sort of logic of how I did this. And now I do it with this, right? And am I able to create and put this out there every single day? And what that does now is there's, depending on the people that kind of come in here all the time and watch it now and connect with it, it started to build a community around all of these people coming here, and the community's part. I mean, they're just as active in it as I am.
Right.
Um,
I see it all the time. I'm like, there it goes. Look at that.
there go. And what's cool is like I've had an individual. Her name was Roberta Westwood, who again just making a comment and being part of actively making suggestions. She's like, "Hey,
Right.
why don't you create a hashtag?" And I said, how can I use the hashtag to my advantage? And then I started to realize that when you start using the hashtag, what that does is when you create an event or when you share it in the comments or anywhere, it populates all the stuff that has that hashtag into one central location. So now, if you wanted to go find new creators, if you wanted to go find like replays of shows, so people like Jillian, who was earlier, said, I can't watch it, but I want to go watch the replay.
Right.
You go to the one single hashtag, all the shows are there, the guides are there. Now people are even creating like content created around it, which is awesome. So now I started this thing. Now it's just going on its third week, where it's now like at 130 followers and growing. Right. Because again, it's just a great way to keep all of these things in one central location now, so people can just go there and say, I missed the stream, right? So even if they didn't know the host, but they know the guest and they couldn't remember who the host was, if they know what the hashtag is, they can go look it up. They can go there, they'll find it. As long as the creator who used it and put it in there shared the hashtag, or somebody in the comments shared the hashtag, boom, it populates there. You can go back and find it and watch it. And this is why it's pretty important. So Jillian, she'll watch this later, and I'll give her another shout out. She did a poll on LinkedIn asking how many people actually watch live as opposed to watching it later or watching it in the replay, excuse me.
Yep.
Right. So, and this is just based off like her sort of network, but I'm pretty sure that there's a lot more people that weren't connected in her network than answered, but 53% of the people said I go back and watch the replay.
Okay.
53%. That's over half, right? That go over there and say, I can't watch the stream, but I go watch the replay when I have the chance. So I said, awesome. What better place than going to the single hashtag there that has all these replays there?
You get it all of them right there.
In one central place. So that's why I tell people and a lot of the creators that are here, hey, because here's what's going to happen, right? You can create this video today.
Right.
And it could be on your LinkedIn feed. But if you're putting posts, if you're putting other things, you're telling everything, whatever that you want to do, you're following, even if you're active on somebody else's post and you make a comment, right? It's going to bury your video down there somewhere, a week, 2 weeks. By the time this video will be lost,
right?
People will have to scroll back and try to find it and manually have to know exactly what they're doing. Where now, if they go to the hashtag and then all the videos are there, they can simply just go back and scroll through all these videos until they find what they're looking for. And what I'm doing now is trying to add hashtags and for dates.
So where do you find yourself in a year from now? In 1 year from now, what do you foresee it going to? Oh, Gabe is creating that next thing. I was thinking YouTube, though. I was thinking, well, YouTube, because if you go back, you have everything in one, if you know the person. But if you don't, I know what you're saying there. Now it's all over the place. And I wouldn't be able to see like Russ. Now I don't know Russ that much. We're connected. I can go out and see now what Russ does. So I'm excited to see that. But where do you see yourself, or even LinkedIn, in 1 year from now with what you're doing now? Where do you think?
So in 1 year, I see myself becoming a full-time creator, a full-time streamer, and a full-time producer. So what I'm also getting into is helping people produce their own shows for people who kind of who possibly will want to do it, but they don't want to do the commitment, like putting everything together, right? Because as you've done it, it takes a lot of commitment, and you have to. Oh gosh, you got to be like.
I know.
Right. So how many times would it have been easier had you had somebody there that said, "Hey, I already got everything ready for you, David. You just you just got to come on here and do your show." I got notes for you, kind of. You have that. It makes your job easier, right?
Yeah. If I had to
right?
do that, wow.
So that's essentially what I do for some people, and especially like what Russ has done is too. So finding even corporate businesses that want to start getting into creating the content for
See,
based around that sort of deal, right?
that
So
makes sense.
doing that and helping sort of build their business branding, building their sort of authority with what they do, as corporations and how they want to get out there. This is what we kind of started doing now, making this transition into going from just hosting and being creators to actually being the guys behind the camera now and controlling and helping, just making a natural jump. You have actors who do it all the time who go become directors, right?
This is you, Gabe.
Yeah.
This is you right here. Look how many trees. When you said that, if I had somebody that could do this for me, for example, I mean, I've written the whole. It takes me about 45 minutes to prepare for a show.
Yeah.
And I write everything down. I go through your videos of persons and their posts, and there you are.
So what I essentially do, and what I've done for when I haven't taken any clients in about 3 to 4 months because I took a break. I wanted to kind of refresh myself because it can get wearing sometimes. So you want to take a little bit of time away from it. But now that I'm getting back into it, what I essentially did was I took everything that you did on that paper and put it right there in a nice, neat file for you to go back. So I create everything. So I essentially go to your guest and say, who do you want on? I want this person, right? So then I start reaching out. I go through the communication. I reach back, hey, back and forth. They have a handler. I deal with the handler. Okay, boom. I need bios, photos, bullet points, all this stuff here. I go back, do the research. I get links for shows, podcasts, previous shows, all the stuff there. Build it, incorporate it, put it together in a nice, neat package. And I say, okay, are you ready? Here we go. And then the creative part that goes all around that. So I do it all. And that's
with companies. I can just imagine, like I envision, listen, everybody wants sponsors and hey, pay me some money for this or have them on. It's in reality, it would take a lot of work. I don't think I have the energy to, I want to make money. And I always say it. But that is a lot. But for businesses on LinkedIn, that could be, listen, like you said, it'd have to be a full time. You'd have to really be into it. And I could imagine how a business on LinkedIn would take that.
That's essentially what you have to do is make the commitment to becoming and doing that full time, because it is a lot of time, effort, and you want to be able to do it in a timely manner. You want to be able to do it quick, fast, and efficient for them, right? To come on there and that's what they want to pay for, and that's what you kind of offer in a one stop. You're
just sit down and all right. We have
here tonight. Yeah. Hey, exactly. Hey, listen, I emailed you all the bullet points. You have them here. Pull them up in your file. Here's it in a single file with your name. Here's everything you need to talk, and you can actually have I teach them to go through how to do all of this, right? Like the thing is, you don't always have to have your camera on to be interactive with somebody in the conversation. So if you had a tab over with somebody's bullet points, you can still hear the audio, look into the camera, teach them the camera presence about how just
the next level.
So you're becoming the director. You're the executive producer of their show. You do everything, and you just let them be the talent.
But you see, when you talk about that, it's nice because you've been through it all. Just like you've been there, you've done it. You've been there. You know what's going to screw up. You know when you're going to mess up. You know when they're going to freeze. You've been there. We can go on and on about that, but we've been there. So your experience there again, it comes that experience versus knowledge to where now you're going to take that to the next level. Yeah.
So that's essentially why going forward, that's what I've been sort of building as I go forward into what I'm going to do into 2022. So that's the next. That's my next step in this my maturation process of getting to where I want to be as a creator. Is start now being able to do that on a level that will again be able to allow me to do what I love,
right,
and help whoever my clients are get what they want out of it and reach their get their objectives fulfilled and say, look, this is This is what you wanted. This is what I can give you. This is, and that's what I think a lot of us who are like committed to wanting to learn how to do this as a craft,
Right.
because it's still evolving. It's not something that's
Yep.
set in stone, right? It's not like, this is what I've tell people. You can kind of go and say, well, I want to become a recruiter. You can go back and actually Google what recruiters make. You get a ballpark going through Glassdoor, even some of these, but at least you have an idea, right? We really don't have that for what this is doing, because it's becoming an emerging market, right? It's
Yep.
ever developing because of COVID. And
Pilot program.
exactly, right. So I'm just trying to help build that structure around this, so people can get familiar with it, know that, hey, this is something. If you're willing to put in the time, the effort, and get the education how to do this.
That's
Because
how my head's spinning when you're saying that, because I'm like, time.
Right.
Thinking, wow, there's not enough time in the day. But
Well, you got to make it full. That's why I said you got to be full time and make the commitment to it. So that's where I'm doing. Plus, I'm going to be doing a certification program that I'm working on as well to certify producers who want to get into doing this.
That would be
right, because you set the criteria. Hey, look, this is somebody that's the Angie's list of remote producers. You can go over there and find
your age, Gabe. You're telling your age. Come on, you're telling your age. When you start talking, wow, I'm like, is he my age? I'm like, wow, he's got everything you've been saying. I'm like, all right, how old is Gabe? You know?
Yeah. Well, you're only as old as you feel, man.
Yeah. But I got one more question. I'll tell you what, I can't thank you finally after like 5-6 months.
Yeah.
But if you had to just sum it up in a minute here, and if there's people that are watching just starting out, even somebody that's been doing it for a year or two, what on LinkedIn, what would you recommend? What do you tell somebody young now that wants to get involved with this, and what they need to do, and to a live stream and just even do a show?
Yeah. So like everything else that I've talked about, remember the thing that I told you, do as I say, not as I do. The smartest thing you can probably do, again, is outline your strategy about what you want to do as a content creator. Now, I got into this one, like I said, and it was live streaming was out there, but it's not like what it was when it had how it's elevated because of COVID, and everybody had, all of a sudden everybody had to be on camera. Not just, that's how business was conducted. That's how education was taught. That's how all these things were done on camera. So 2020 did a lot of things and exploded and advanced the way that we communicate and the technologies and all this stuff. So now I just tell people, look, get a strategy together of how you want to do a show, right? So sit down, right? Or sit down with somebody who can consult you, like what me, Russ, and there's plenty of us out there, and then walk you through what you think you want to do as a creator. Just outline how you want to create your show and what your vision is. And then we can kind of get you started in a direction. So if it's like, hey, I want to do content. So for example, I'm going to use you. If you got on here, this is your first time, you've never done this before, but you know what? I want to talk about recruiting and hiring and how all these processes are inept and there's things that need to be improved. Okay, cool. Now you have an objective.
Yep.
Find the holes in the system. That's what I want to talk about and say how we can kind of correct them and build solutions for them, right?
Yep.
So that's how you approach any of the ideas that you might have, whether it's marketing, whether it's accounting, whatever it is that you want to be.
People want to watch.
Exactly. And that's the thing. People will watch.
Yeah, right. Like you said, accounting. Listen, would I do an accountant show? No. But somebody that's in accounting will watch an accounting show.
And people do like this. Well, how do I start that? This goes to the part of the strategy, right? I said, if you're going to do that, be strategic in who you want to reach out to and connect with on LinkedIn. That's, again, use hashtags, use filters to find people that are in the accounting field, around the accounting field that you do. Start making connections with those people.
Yep.
Because those are people that either going to be possibly guests, people that you could possibly collaborate with, people that you could actually help you build your audience with.
Yeah.
All by just being strategic in how you go out there and craft. So that's why I say, sit down, take 20 minutes, 30 minutes, get a general idea first of all, and then we can expand upon it.
And we'll tell them to reach out. You know, like I'll tell everybody now, you know, reach out to you because I mean, I think it's amazing what you're trying to accomplish there, and somebody's got to do it.
Somebody's got to do it.
I'm glad it's you. Somebody's got to do it. You know.
Have you ever seen, David? Has this ever happened to you? You see something on TV and say, "Damn it, I had that idea."
Yeah.
If I would have just moved on it, right?
Moved on it.
And put it into action. That's all I'm trying to do is say, you know what? Before somebody else jumps on this, I'm doing all the things that I have in my mind and putting them into action, and just seeing how far it can go. Right.
And that's what I do. I do my shows. Now tomorrow I'll post content. I'll do ads myself. I do something what I like about HR, staffing, create it. And I look back now. I look at my page. I'm like, damn, I'm pretty freaking good. I'm like, this looks like everybody else. Look, I never would Grammarly. I love Grammarly. Let me tell you, that changed my friggin' life. $139 a year. Let me tell you, I sound
both.
Oh, Grammarly. But it changed me. Like you learned it's a tool.
Mm-hmm.
I could never have done shows now or how to post things without Grammarly. I'm telling you, but I've learned from Grammarly. Now I know like and apostrophe. I never did all that. But my point there is, like you said, it's a tool. Use it.
That's all I tell people. There are tools out there to help you build your processes to get everything and streamline how you operate. That's the whole. If you're in business in any sort of form, that's how you always want to operate. Is you want to be able to streamline your process to make it easier from beginning to completion of what you're trying to do. Whether it's in the office, in the warehouse, shipping, whatever it is, however you're trying to operate. That's the whole purpose.
Trying to get the young kids, the millennials. I try to tell work people, the young ones, come on, get on LinkedIn. For what? It's not Facebook, but just get on there. Make yourself a presence, because one day when you need a job or anything, this kind of stuff here, when you learn, there's value in it. Mm-hmm. There is value down the road if you continue doing the shows, and people will watch you. They learn. They want that value. They're going to pay for it. You know, service that you offer, I should say it like that. But if you offer a service, they're going to be like, wow, I trust Gabe. I've watched him grow, and I think I can really reach out to him. Mm-hmm. And like we said, people reach out to you. That's the goal, and you're helping them.
Yeah. You know, I mean, just again, approach everything and be yourself.
Yep.
Be what you're supposed to be. If you approach things with integrity, right? Every day, get up in the morning. If you have integrity, what you do and your actions align with your values, you will have no problem becoming a content creator.
You got it down, man. That's awesome, though. I like how you put the way you talk about things and putting into the shows.
I had to learn. I had to learn. This is the value. This is the value, David. This is what it is. What
it is. I've learned a lot from you tonight about the football games. I'm going to use that orientation. How many people thought? But my point, the last thing before we go, and again, thank you. If you know anyone that's looking, I am looking for somebody to do a weekly show with, somebody that's starting out. I want somebody that tells the truth. I want somebody that's right on point. I will work with them, and I want to do a weekly show with that. And that's what I want to try to do. So I know in your network, if you know somebody just starting out, I want to take them on and do a weekly show and just give them one time. And like you said, I think it just helps and it shows them. So if you know anybody on that, reach out.
The opportunities that happen because of that circle of reciprocity that you're about to do, magnify more than you can even imagine. So that's why I said this calendar thing that I've started doing, the scheduling thing.
Love it.
You want to talk about reciprocity and things coming back to you just by being like this?
Right.
The opportunities that are knocking on my door now are plentiful. It's a bounty, and I'm blessed to have it.
Yep. I never take it for granted. I just love it. And like you said, you love what you do. And I can't tell you, I'll tell you what in Texas, but wow, we did an hour.
That's what I said. It goes that fast, man.
That fast, an hour. I'm like, is that an hour? I'm like, wow, it's already 10 o'clock in Pennsylvania here. But, I really want to thank you so much. And Gabe, please, people, reach out to Gabe. I'll tell you what, if you're not connected with him now, you're going to want to be, because in about another 6 to 10 months to a year, I'll tell you what, you're going to be the one that everybody's going to be asking you, how did you do that? What did you do? They're going to be looking at you. And like I said, where are you going to be at 2 years? And I'm going to ask you that. See, I remember. I'm going to ask you 2 years from now that question. Are you at where you were? You say you were going to be. Ooh, that
Right.
makes sense. Wow. So
It does.
thanks a lot so much, Gabe, and everybody for Russ. Well, we got Russ, Steven, and Gillian on the
Thank
show.
you.
You know, and thanks everybody. And I'm going to talk to you right after this real quick. And I'm
Cool.
going to end it with this video here.